In this third episode of our series about CrossFit programming, we'll give you a whole different framework to look at and study and understand CrossFit programming. So tune in and take notes.
Welcome to the CrossFit Edwardsville Community Podcast, where we hear and learn from our coaches, CrossFitters, and Glen Ed community leaders. Now, here are your hosts, Dallas and Greg.
Guys, it's Coach G here, one of the programmers of all of the CrossFit programming at CrossFit Edwardsville. I've been in the game a long time. I've done somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 CrossFit workouts. I have my doctorate in this. I've been writing programming for 17 years, programming for groups for 15. I've studied the work of the great, CopTrain and CrossFit Invictus and Mayhem Athlete, all the big names. I've got degrees and certifications in weightlifting and gymnastics. And I've developed, I think, a pretty robust understanding of exercise science, exercise physiology, and what it takes for a program to deliver optimal performance, optimal outcomes, where you actually see changes, measurable, observable, repeatable, quantifiable changes in strength, flexibility, cardiorespiratory endurance, muscular stamina, speed and power, agility, coordination, balance, and accuracy. In this specific episode of this podcast series, we're going to talk about the framework, or frameworks, I should say, related to strength. And I want to do a little backup from that for a second, just to say, in this series, what we're doing is we're giving you different ways to look at CrossFit programming to better understand it. There are so many different lenses through which you can look at an exercise program to analyze its components, the DNA of it, its identity, its structure. And then there's different ways to test it for its efficacy as well. In this specific episode, we're going to hang out with the concept of strength for a second. We're going to talk about definitions, strength components, slow and fast, and then strength progression as well. We're progressing loading and reps over a course of time. So that's what we're going to hang out in this episode. And if getting stronger is one of the things you want to get out of your CrossFit programming, this episode is really going to help you better understand what to look for when you're evaluating the quality of a CrossFit program. So let's dive into it. We're going to start with strength definitions. There's a quote that's commonly attributed to Socrates, may or may not actually be a Socratic quote, but it's that the beginning of wisdom is a definition of terms. So it's really important that if we're going to talk about improving strength, that we're very clear about what we mean. Having had thousands and thousands of conversations, literally thousands and thousands of conversations with people about fitness and specifically about what it is to be stronger, it's very important that you guys know going into this that I want to be stronger means a lot of different things to a lot of people. For some people, stronger is a certain kind of physicality. It's a muscularity. It's a presence that they have when they walk into the room. They don't look like an easy target. They have a confidence, a vitality that just radiates off of them. For some people, when they say, I want to be stronger, they're talking about a physical presence, a look a lot of the times. For other people, stronger is I wake up in the morning, I can do everything I want to do from dawn till dusk. I can move furniture, play with the kids, run with the dogs, play a sport. I don't get tired around midday. I can work in the garden, or I can hit up some weights in the gym. I can do all the things from dawn till dusk, no limitation. That for some people is what they mean when they talk about stronger. And for some people, when they talk about stronger, they're talking about I can lift bigger weights in the gym. My bench, my squat, my deadlift, for example, are bigger numbers than they were previously. Or I can bicep curl more weight. I can do more push-ups. For some people, that is what they're talking about when they talk about strength. For the purpose of our conversation today, we're going to hang out with that third definition, the quantifiable increases in the loads that you can lift for 1 rep or 2 or 5 or 10 reps, sometimes more, 20 reps in certain circles. All of those are quantifiables that can definitely be classified as strength progress. So, having that definition on the table, there are a couple of components that improve and increase and advance your ability to get stronger, where I can move bigger weights, bigger barbells, bigger Atlas stones, whatever. And so a couple different components that you should know about are both the brute slow strength element of being strong, as well as the ability to accelerate, to generate force quickly, the speed element of it. Perhaps the world's greatest strength production house is Westside Barbell. And Westside Barbell out of Ohio, shout out to that crew. I've actually been a part of a seminar from Westside Barbell. They have really crystallized the concept of not just being brute strength strong, but also having the ability to generate that strength forcefully and fastly. You need to have the slow strength and also the speed, the ability to apply speed to the bar for your squats, your deadlifts, and your presses. With Westside Barbell programming, for example, they have max effort days where they do a unique form of squat for a max, a 5-rep max, a 2-rep max. And they have days where they work specifically on speed. They'll do like box squats for speed, or they'll do accommodating resistance style exercise for speed, where they're working very specifically on the ability to not just have strength, but to apply it forcefully and quickly to the bar. You need both in order to advance your strength. In CrossFit, and this is interesting because it was Outlaw CrossFit many moons ago that actually had a hypothesis that instead of doing a heavy max Monday and then doing sets of 2 on a box squat for speed production on a different day, you could do your heavy squats on the one day for the strength and then use weightlifting movements, specifically cleans, jerks, and snatches, as your speed work on a different day, as a way of training your body for speed production on the bar. And they tested baseline to retest the deadlift capacities of an A group that only did deadlifts, strength, speed. And then they had a B group that did heavy deadlifts and cleans and snatches, more of a bias to cleans, as their speed work. And it was very, very interesting that the results for the groups were effectively the same, meaning that in order to develop the speed aspects of strength, you don't necessarily need to only do squats or only do deadlifts or only do bench press, that you can actually develop that fast twitch, the force production, velocity, acceleration production side of things with some other weightlifting movements as well. And you can make a very good argument that in CrossFit world, there's actually even more possibilities than that. We may do heavy squats for the strength in the max effort component, the slow strength component of our lifting, and then explosive box jumps in the speed development phase of our training cycle. It might be heavy bench presses On the max effort day, it might be plyometric push-ups, clapping push-ups, or even wall balls. In the dynamic effort or speed aspect day, dynamic effort is the specific West Side terminology that they use. They have max effort, they have dynamic effort days. And I think that part of what allows CrossFitters to develop that strength global term, the slow, we lift heavy, the fast, we also work explosively. And you need both to build your strength. I think I've made that case here. Shout out to Outlaw CrossFit. RIP, I don't think they're around anymore now, but they had a proven program. Another framework I want to look at this through, the final framework for the day of strength, is strength progression. Talk about loading and reps. So strength progression should be clear, it should be obvious, it should be trackable from week to week. There's really good data that says, especially amongst trained lifters, in order to actually affect a change in their strength abilities, you probably need about 12 weeks of consistent training in order to see a measurable change, in order to enjoy a measurable change. Could it be done in less time than that? Probably could, especially the less experienced an exerciser is. Like when you first start a program, especially if you're just starting a strength program or a program that has a strength component to it, every time you touch a bar, you can set a PR. It's a very exciting time when you're a relative neophyte or novice to strength development. Like you're always getting better. You're always seeing PRs. You could be in like your 40s and your 50s, and every time you do a shoulder press, your abilities are going up. It's really exciting, right? But as you get further into your experience level, further into your athletic career, it takes a more intelligent, thoughtful approach, and it takes just more time in order to see those improvements. This is a normal, completely understood, and like a regular part of the training experience. 12 weeks is a really good general shorthand for how long to train before retesting. That's what you see in our CrossFit Edwardsville programming, that we'll train hard for 5 weeks, deload for 1. That's our first 6 weeks. Train hard for 5 weeks, deload for 1, boom, go into retest 12 weeks out. That's a really smart and thoughtful approach to baseline to retest testing series. Within the strength progression, it is absolutely not random. You'll see that we'll do some heavy sets of 12 up to potentially a 12 rep max. The next week, maybe we'll do heavy sets of 10. The next week, heavy sets of 8. And over time, we reduce the rep count while increasing the loading that we do from week to week, try to lift a little bit heavier for a bit fewer reps. As we're going along and doing this, these are checkpoints in strength. What is my 6 rep max on a straight bar back squat, high bar now? And I can retest that in the future. And then next week, I can try and lift a little bit heavier with a slightly different variation of a back squat for 4 reps, and so on. This will lead us up to eventually a 1 rep max retest. But as we're going along, we're also hitting these other bases on the way there. So we're testing 10 reps, we're testing 8 reps, testing 6 reps, testing 4 reps, and so on, which allows us to we're hitting a lot of different data points as we go along. We're gradually increasing the amount of load that we put onto our skeletal system, onto our muscles, our tendons, our ligaments, our tissues, and we're using a deload as a way of taking some of that stress off of the body every 6th week so that our nervous systems can recover from the strain. so that our muscles, our tendons, our ligaments, our skeletal system can get a little bit of a breather from the loading of our strength work. All of these components are things you'll see in an intelligently designed program. The flip side of this, if you're looking at CrossFit programming and you cannot in any way tell what is the progression, the linear progression, or whatever progression from week to week. The 1 week, they do a set of 8 on a thing. The next week, they do a set of 14 on a completely different thing. The week after that, it's a 1 rep max of a variation of the first thing. The next week after that, there's no strength work at all. The week after that, it's heavy doubles it's madness. Most CrossFit programming is literally just somebody who's sitting in front of their computer. They're like, this idea amuses me. They throw it out there and they run with it. It is generally unscientific. They're wigging it. It's up to the emotional whims of the programmer more often than not. Hate to say it, but generally speaking, most CrossFit programming is just a bunch of random stuff thrown onto the table, usually done a week at a time or even a day at a time, where the programmer, they write the program for Friday on Thursday night. They write the program for Saturday on Friday night. They're literally winging it. You should ask the people who write the programming in your CrossFit gym, what is the structure to what we do? What is the progression to what we do? How are we progressing our strength abilities from week to week? What is the design there? Explain to me the science behind it. If they can't tell you how they're advancing things from week 1 to week 5 to week 10, etc., spoiler alert, they don't have one. They don't have the level of understanding of periodization and progression of load, volume, intensity. They're literally just winging it, and your results when you're winging it are going to be random. You don't want random results. You want measurable, observable, repeatable, dependable results. That's what we're proud to deliver at CrossFit Edwardsville. So that was a lot about strength work. We talked about definitions, talked about strength components, the max effort, dynamic effort methods, aka slow and fast aspects of strength, talked about strength progression from week to week and month to month. And hopefully that gave you a better insight into the anatomy of a CrossFit strength progression. Thanks for the gift of your time and your attention. And guys, we will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to my dad's podcast. For more useful tools and guidance, go to CrossFitEdwardsville.com and feel free to like, share, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comment sections down below. See you in the next episode.